Skip, you talked about leadership during the preseason. How have guys like Travis and Schwarber, evolved into those roles during the season?
Um, they play. I mean, I think they've done a good job of coming to the park every day and playing, and more by example, not so much by word of mouth. And they're going to have instant credibility and respect because of what they did. Certainly last year, their careers here, but also playing and representing their country in the summer. And I think guys are going to look to them. So, the big challenge for them is to put themselves beyond reproach. And what I mean by that is to come every day so the young guy can't look at you and say, well, I don't need to work hard because you're not doing it. Those guys come and work hard every day, and they're great models for the younger guys. So they're, in the classic definition of leadership, I think probably more out of by example than by words, which is totally fine.
I'm just talking about new players to the program this year. What have guys like Brad Hartong, Casey Rodriguez, and Nick Ramos, not necessarily a new player, but getting playing time this year? What have those guys brought to the team?
Well, I think a level of maturity. I mean, Hartong and Rodriguez, because of some holes that we had last year, bring some maturity to the playing field instantly. But as I've said numerous times in these interviews, is everyone's talking about how we're going to be like last year. Well, we're not like last year because we have different personalities, different guys on the team, and every team's different, every player's different. But I think those guys, to me, they bring some maturity. They allowed us to not skip a beat maybe as much when you'd have to fill those voids maybe with a freshman. We didn't have to do that. We had some guys that could play. And the other part about all of those guys, they're humble guys. They didn't come in here and tell everybody how good they were. They realized this was a pretty good team, and I think they fit in both on and off the field very, very well.
And you talk about freshmen coming into the program too, and a couple new guys have shown flashes of promise for the future, like Cangelosi, Curitin. Just what have you seen from those guys?
Well, finally we're kind of at the point. I say that we're going to be depleted next year, but it's fun when you can see that a freshman's allowed to come into the program and allowed to be a freshman. And what I mean by that is they don't have to come in and hit three-hole for you and shoulder the burden of that. There's a chance where they can develop. There's a chance where they can watch great players every day and learn from that. So I think with Cangelosi and Curitin, frankly, I think they could probably play for a lot of teams right now. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way about our program, but it's going to be nice to see them take the experience of not having to play, but yet the benefits of playing side by side every day in practice in off season with some good players to when they can finally put it on consistently for us next spring. Are they going to be Travis and Schwarber? I don't know, but I think the experience of being allowed to develop as a freshman is going to benefit them in the future.
You really have a core veteran pitching staff, and especially with the official news coming out of Kyle Hart, are you looking upon some of these younger guys to step up? I mean, you talked about it before, an open challenge back in Iowa, but I mean, is that open challenge still out there for these guys?
Yeah, better be. I mean, my goodness, one man's failure is the right word, but is another man's opportunity, and it's like, if I'm a young guy or a pitcher that maybe hasn't pitched a lot of innings up to this point, there's plenty of opportunities. So, and I've always been one to reward guys who succeed and do well in their opportunities. So we'll see how that shapes up. But we're going to miss Kyle. We certainly miss Ryan. But there's capable guys here that will have a chance to show what they can do and hopefully carry us to a strong finish to the season.
This group is obviously capable of winning on a staff day when you give somebody 2 or 3 and you give somebody 3 or 4 and you get through it. But I guess how important is it to have 4 guys that you can give the ball and hope for 5 or 6, especially when you get to tournament time? And how important is this next month and a half toward developing?
That's the $1 million question, because that's the part. I mean, every injury, every struggle of guys that shouldn't struggle thins that scenario out. I mean, if you're talking about biggest difference from last year is, we knew here's what's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it allowed us to have a quality pin for the entire weekend and had allowed us to have quality midweek. We're in a little bit of a, I don't want to say dilemma, but it's we're still playing to try to have a national seed, so the midweek stuff's important. In a normal scenario, if we're banged up as much as we are, you kind of just throw the midweek stuff to total development and be ready for the weekend. But it's like we feel even our weekend game or our midweek games are as important as our conference stuff. It's thinned us out. It's very important that, some guys step up and get us 5 or 6. And we can't have what we had last weekend, which was 2 out of our 3 starts were not quality starts. I just don't think we're that deep, but I don't think we're going to live that way consistently and play at the highest level. We need 3 guys to step up on the weekend to chew up some innings, as Joey Donato has been doing, as Kyle Hart was doing prior to his injury.
Who are the guys? I mean, obviously we talked a ton about Will on Sunday, but who are the other guys that you look to and say, okay, maybe?
Well,
maybe that's a 4th starter. Maybe
yeah.
That's,
even the 3rd starter,
or even a 3rd starter. Yeah.
I mean, I thought Brian Cordy has thrown really well for us when he's been in there, and the biggest thing is just attacking and throwing strikes and giving the defense a chance. That's been our biggest issue. I think Evan Bell has a chance to do that. We may, even with the Jake Kelzer as he continues to develop, the arms are there, and in some crazy way, this may be good because it's going to force me to use guys that maybe I wouldn't use until some of those other guys are out of the program through draft or graduation. But we've got capable guys. We've got, and I don't even want to say capable because it makes it sound like they're just average. We've got some special arms that, hopefully given a chance, will succeed. So we'll see.
Who are you looking at getting the start tomorrow?
Cordy.
What tangible goals are you kind of looking for him to achieve? What are some things you want him to
Attacking the zone with multiple pitches. I think as a starter, you have to be able to do that. You can't just go in and be hard. You got to be able to drop some off-speed stuff over. So I would love to see him come in and throw multiple types of pitches over for strikes.
Is there a specific number of innings you want him to throw?
Again, tomorrow's a very, very important game on a larger sense. So we'll just see it, if he goes out and throws a complete game, if we were ever fortunate, I know, if you jump out and you can hang a few runs on it, yeah, it'd be nice to save him for the weekend, but we're not going into it like that. We're going into it that we're going to try to win that game tomorrow, use as few guys as we can, and be ready for the weekend.
Does it reach a point with a guy like Brian that you go in and you say, okay, like I'm going to let you take it as far as you can go, just to find out if you've got it in you?
Yeah, but honestly, I kind of, occasionally we'll go into it, decide we're going to cut it up a little bit with a bullpen.
Right.
But more times than not, when I'm taking a guy out, it's because he's not getting the job done. So as long as he continues to get the job done, and it probably as much to dictate what the score is at that point. But no, it's his tomorrow. I'd love to see him grow up and take us into 6 or 7. That would be great.
With some question marks in the starting rotation, it's nice to see the consistency in the back end with, guys like Scotty Efros and Kelzer and the guys in the back end there.
Yeah, that's the piece of it that you're constantly balancing because, we could take a Harrison, you could take a Belcher, you could take an Efros probably and put him as a starter, but the mindset there is those guys are very durable, and the way this staff is shaped up right now is they could give you a long relief if they need to, and the thought again is, it's probably better to have them available for multiple games on the weekend rather than just one. So it goes back to that starter, whomever it is, to try to give us 5 quality, because if they do that, we feel very comfortable handing over the Harrisons, the Belchers, the Cordy, whomever, in the middle innings, and then you get to the 7th. Efros has shown that he's capable of doing 3-inning saves. So.
Question about Michigan State this weekend. It's a very weird series last weekend. You guys had just had the 18-game winning streak snapped on the previous Sunday, and then that kind of propelled you guys in the next phase of the season, I guess you could say. What's the lasting memory from the Michigan State series up in East Lansing?
That we got lasting memory was we got swept on 3 walk-offs, and I laugh about it because to lose on a walk-off, that happens a couple times during a 56-game schedule. It happened 3 games in a row. When we were riding a pretty good high at that time, we lost 3 walk-offs in a row. Got to watch a team celebrate on the field 3 games in a row. As you can see, I can remember that. So that, that's kind of stuck in my mind. They're good, and they're going to be solid. They're going to be a lot like us, physical and hit the ball. And if we don't come ready to play, we could get swept again. If we come ready to play, we could sweep them. But we're not taking anything for granted. We're not going to rally cry behind, hey, they swept us last year. We're going to try to play good, solid baseball and see what happens.